Like this video if you believe life always comes full circle. Leave a comment with your opinion. The aroma of morning coffee still hung in the air when Isabel touched the shoulder of David, who was furiously typing on his laptop. The home office smelled of imported leather furniture and fine wood shelves. But today, there was an electric tension she couldn't decipher. "David!" Her voice trembled slightly. Her hands were cold, clutching a small rectangular object, and her heart pounded against her ribs like a desperate bird trying to escape a cage. He looked up, irritated by the interruption. His face, always so controlled, was now creased with an impatience she knew well. His fingers drummed a dry, rhythmic beat on the mahogany desk. "What is it? I'm in the middle of an important video conference." Isabel took a deep breath, tasting the metallic flavor of nervousness in her mouth. The silky fabric of her blouse rustled against her skin as she approached, her heels echoing on the marble floor like the beat of a frantic metronome. "I need to show you something." She held out the pregnancy test, her hands trembling imperceptibly. David's gaze fixed on the object, and she could see the exact moment he understood. The blood drained from his face, leaving him as pale as paper. His breathing changed, becoming quick and shallow. "No!" The word was a harsh whisper. "This can't be happening now." "David, I know we didn't plan this, but..." Isabel tried to touch his arm, but he recoiled abruptly, the leather chair groaning with his sudden movement. "We didn't plan this?" He stood up abruptly, his imposing 6-foot height making her feel even smaller. "Isabel, do you have any idea what this means? My company is in the process of a merger with a German multinational. I can't have a personal scandal right now." The woody scent of his aftershave, which once soothed her, now felt suffocating. Isabel's stomach turned. She didn't know if it was from morning sickness or the cruelty of his words. "Scandal!" Her voice came out higher than normal. "We're talking about our child, David." "Child." He spat the word as if it were poison. "A complication I can't afford to have. You know my family, how the business world is. I'm single in everyone's eyes, and I need to stay that way until this deal is closed." Tears burned the corners of Isabel's eyes. She could taste their saltiness before they even fell. The fabric of the curtain in the background swayed gently with the air conditioning, casting dancing shadows on the wall. "You're asking me to..." She couldn't finish the sentence. "I'm asking you to handle this discreetly." David sat back down, his fingers already resuming typing, as if nothing had happened. "I know a very discreet private clinic. We can schedule it for next week." The sound of the laptop keys echoed in the heavy silence. Isabel felt the floor shift beneath her feet, as if she were on a ship in a stormy sea. "David, look at me!" He didn't lift his eyes from the screen. "David!" This time she screamed, and he finally looked at her, his dark eyes as cold as ice. "What do you want me to say, Isabel? That I'm going to drop everything, disappoint hundreds of employees who depend on me, and destroy years of work because of a mistake? A mistake?" The word hit her like a punch to the gut. "Is that what you see our baby as?" "I see reality." He got up again, walking to the window. His tense back under the Italian dress shirt drew a rigid figure against the sunlight. "I have responsibilities, commitments. I can't be a father right now." Isabel wiped her tears with the back of her hand, the rough movement against her sensitive skin. The ring David had given her for her birthday, a promise that they would one day get married, felt like lead on her finger. "And what if I don't do it? What if I decide to have this baby?" David turned slowly, and the expression on his face chilled Isabel's blood. It was the same cold, calculated look she had seen him use in business meetings to intimidate opponents. "Then you'll do it alone." The silence that followed was broken only by the ticking of the Swiss clock on the wall. Isabel felt as if the air had been sucked out of the room. Her legs trembled, and she leaned on the desk to keep from falling. "You can't be serious." "I'm being very clear." David adjusted his shirt cuffs, a gesture she knew he made to end a conversation. "If you want to stay with me, get that child out of your life. If you don't, Well, it was good while it lasted. His words cut deeper than any knife. Isabel felt her heart shatter into a million fragments, each one piercing her lungs and making it hard to breathe. She looked around the office, the photos of them together on the shelf, her coffee mug next to his computer, the books she had lent him. Everything seemed to belong to another life, another person. "All right?" Her voice came out surprisingly calm. "You've made your choice." Isabel walked to the door, each step echoing in the deadly silence. When she reached the doorway, she turned one last time. David had returned to his laptop, his hands typing frantically as if she had already disappeared from his life. "David." He didn't look up. "Don't ever look for me again." This time, he lifted his eyes, and for a second, she thought she saw something different in his expression. Regret? Fear? But it was just a flash, quickly replaced by the usual cold mask. Isabel left the office, walked up the marble stairs for the last time, and went to the bedroom they had shared for 2 years. His cologne clung to the Egyptian cotton sheets, a fragrance that now made her nauseous. She grabbed a suitcase and began pulling her clothes from the closet. Every piece held a memory. The blue dress from the first time he took her to meet an important client, the red lingerie she had bought to surprise him on his birthday, the silk pajamas they wore on lazy Sunday mornings. As she folded her clothes, a tear fell on the blue dress, creating a dark stain. Isabel wiped it away quickly and continued packing. 40 minutes later, she went downstairs carrying 2 suitcases. David hadn't left the office. The sound of his typing continued to echo down the hallway, relentless as a machine. At the front door, Isabel paused and looked back one last time. The house she had considered her home for so long now seemed like a mausoleum of marble and glass. Cold, empty, just like the man who inhabited it. She put the suitcases in her car, her hands trembling as she held the keys. The engine started with a soft rumble, and she drove slowly down the tree-lined driveway leading to the main gate. In the rearview mirror, she watched the house shrink until it disappeared completely. Only then did she allow the tears to fall freely, wetting her face and dripping onto the leather steering wheel. "If to him I was a weakness," she murmured, a hand instinctively going to her still flat belly. "To my baby, I will be a strength." The city stretched out ahead, full of possibilities and challenges. Isabel drove toward the future, leaving behind the man who had chosen business over love, money over family. She didn't know yet how she would do it, but one thing was clear. She would raise her child alone, with dignity and Veep. And David Mendoza would discover too late what he had lost by letting her go. The sweet aroma of fresh strawberries filled the small kitchen as Isabel cut the fruit into tiny pieces. The afternoon sun filtered through the white linen curtains, creating a golden mosaic on the rustic wooden table. At 2 years old, Lily swung her legs in her high chair, her dark eyes shining with anticipation. "Mommy Mango," the little voice echoed through the cozy kitchen, making Isabel smile. The girl's rosy cheeks had traces of yogurt, and her brown curls escaped the ponytail Isabel had made that morning. "Strawberry, my love," Isabel pronounced each syllable slowly, taking time to admire her daughter's perfect little face, the delicate features, the soft skin, and especially those eyes. Eyes that held a familiar intensity, a depth that sometimes made Isabel's heart ache. The 2-bedroom apartment in a middle-class neighborhood was modest compared to the mansion she had lived in before, but it was overflowing with warmth. The light yellow walls were decorated with colorful drawings Lily had made at school, and green plants occupied every available corner, filling the space with fresh air and life. Do you think a mother's love can truly overcome the pain of betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Isabel placed the strawberries on a plastic plate decorated with butterflies and sat down beside her daughter. The soft fabric of her floral dress brushed against her tanned legs. She had learned to appreciate comfortable, practical clothes, so different from the designer pieces she used to wear. "Good?" she asked, watching Lily chew with total concentration. "Good." The girl clapped her hands, sprinkling small pieces of strawberry across the table. Her chubby little hands picked up another piece, bringing it to her mouth with the seriousness of someone performing an important task. Isabel laughed, a genuine sound that echoed off the walls. It was incredible how motherhood had changed even her laugh, once reserved and polite, now spontaneous and musical. She cleaned her daughter's face with a soft cloth, feeling the velvety texture of her skin. The phone rang, and Isabel answered with Lily still on her lap. It was Clara, her partner in the small digital marketing consulting company they had opened together. "Izzy, we got 3 more clients today. The flower boutique wants a full campaign for Mother's Day." Clara's enthusiastic voice came through the phone, mixing with the little sounds Lily was making while playing with the strawberry. "That's wonderful. Can we meet on Tuesday to discuss strategies?" Isabel adjusted Lily on her hip, the girl playing with the floral buttons on her blouse. "Lily will be at daycare." "Perfect. Izzy, are you sure you don't want to hire a nanny? It would be easier to work." "I don't need to, Clara. We're fine as we are." Isabel looked at her daughter, who was now trying to pull a lock of her brown hair. "Lily is my priority, and we managed to balance everything." After she hung up, Isabel carried Lily to the living room. The space was cozy, with a soft beige sofa, a bookshelf filled with children's books, and toys organized in wicker baskets. The scent of lavender from the diffuser mixed with the natural aroma of the home, a fragrance of a true home. Lily crawled to her toy box and picked up a plush doll, a brown bear Isabel had bought when she was still pregnant. The girl hugged the stuffed animal, making a sound of contentment that melted her mother's heart. "Bear!" Lily murmured, pressing the doll's snout against her face. Isabel sat on the plush rug next to her daughter, watching every movement with fascination. It was impressive how such a small child could have such a strong personality. Lily was determined, curious, but also affectionate and sensitive. Qualities that Isabel recognized, but which came mixed with other characteristics that made her swallow hard. The intensity of her gaze when Lily focused on something, the way she furrowed her brow when she was thinking, the determined way she picked up her toys. It all reminded her of someone Isabel was trying to forget. The sound of rain began to beat against the window, creating a soft symphony that always calmed Lily. The girl dropped the bear and crawled to the window, placing her little hands on the cold glass. The drops drew winding paths, and the child's eyes followed each movement with fascination. "Water!" Lily tapped the window, leaving small marks on the glass. "That's right, rain!" Isabel approached, smelling the fresh scent of wet earth coming through the window crack. "Want to see better?" She picked Lily up and sat in the armchair by the window. The girl settled perfectly in her arms, her warm body relaxing against Isabel's chest. They stayed there, watching the rain, the rhythmic sound creating an atmosphere of absolute peace. Isabel inhaled Lily's characteristic scent, a mixture of baby shampoo, powder, and that unique aroma all babies have. It was a fragrance that calmed her more than any therapy, that healed any pain from the day. "You know something, my love," Isabel murmured, stroking her daughter's soft curls. "You're the best thing that ever happened in my life." Lily looked up, those dark eyes studying her mother's face with childish seriousness. Then she smiled, a toothless smile showing only 4 small pearl-white teeth. "Mommy!" The word came out as a whisper, but it carried so much love that Isabel felt her eyes water. She kissed her daughter's forehead, feeling the soft, warm skin against her lips. In moments like these, Isabel wondered how she had managed to live so long without knowing this kind of love. An unconditional, pure love that demanded nothing in return but care and affection. The apartment was silent, except for the sound of the rain and the rhythmic breathing of Lily, who was beginning to fall asleep. Isabel continued to rock her gently, watching her daughter's eyelids grow heavy. Over the last 2 years, she had discovered a version of herself she didn't know existed. A strong, independent woman, capable of building a dignified life from scratch. She had created a successful business, raised a wonderful child, and found a genuine happiness she had never experienced. Of course, there were challenges. Sleepless nights when Lily was sick, constant worry about finances, the loneliness that sometimes hit when she put her daughter to sleep and was left alone in the living room. But each difficulty had strengthened her determination. Each overcome obstacle had increased her confidence. Lily fell completely asleep, her face relaxed and angelic. Isabel carefully got up and carried her to her room. The light pink walls were decorated with hand-painted clouds, and a mobile of golden stars swayed gently above the crib. She placed her daughter on the soft mattress, covering her with a cotton blanket decorated with butterflies. Lily sighed contentedly, turning on her side and hugging a small heart-shaped pillow. Back in the living room, Isabel poured herself a cup of chamomile tea, the aromatic steam rising in lazy spirals. She sat on the sofa with a book, but ended up just looking out the window as the rain continued to fall. Sometimes, especially on nights like this, she allowed herself to think about what could have been different. If David had reacted differently, if he had chosen love instead of fear. But she always came to the same conclusion. Maybe things had happened exactly as they should. Lily didn't need a father who saw her as an obstacle. She deserved better than that. And Isabel had discovered she was fully capable of giving her daughter all the love and structure she needed. The phone vibrated with a message from Clara. "Izzy, I saw a story about David's company in a business magazine. A multi-million-dollar merger with the Germans. Do you want me to save the magazine?" Isabel typed quickly. "No need. That's not part of our lives." And it was true. David Mendoza belonged to the past, a closed chapter of her story. The present was Lily sleeping in her room, their business growing, the life they had built together. She finished her tea and went to check on Lily. The girl was sleeping soundly, her lips slightly parted in a serene smile. Isabel adjusted the blanket and whispered, "I didn't need him, my love, but you deserved to know who your father was." The phrase came out before she could stop it, echoing in the quiet room. It was a truth Isabel carried in her heart, not for her own sake, but for Lily's. Every child had the right to know their origins, even if the father was unworthy. Isabel knew that one day she would have to make a decision about that. But for now, she and Lily were fine. More than fine. They were happy, complete, and thriving. The rain had stopped, and the full moon shone through the parting clouds. Isabel closed the door to Lily's room and got ready for bed, with a peaceful heart and the certainty that she had made the right choices. Somewhere in the city, David was probably celebrating his multi-million-dollar merger, surrounded by executives and expensive champagne. But here, in this cozy apartment, Isabel had something infinitely more valuable, the pure and genuine love of her daughter. The downtown shopping center buzzed with the typical Saturday afternoon crowd. The aroma of cinnamon from the cookie kiosks mixed with the perfume from the cosmetic stores, creating an olfactory symphony that filled the wide, bright corridors. Isabel pushed the stroller slowly, watching Lily animatedly point to the colorful displays. "Mommy, look!" Lily clapped her hands when she saw the toy store window, where giant teddy bears were doing a mechanical dance. Her dark eyes sparkled with enchantment, and her brown curls bounced with every movement of her head. Isabel smiled, feeling the light fabric of her navy blue dress dance against her legs as she walked. It was rare to have a free Saturday to go out without commitments, and she had decided to take Lily to the mall, something the girl hadn't yet experienced. "Want to see the toys up close?" Isabel parked the stroller in front of the window, watching her daughter's illuminated face. Lily tried to get out of the stroller, stretching her little arms toward the toys. Her pink dress with a floral print swayed with her anxious movements, and her white shoes kicked the air with excitement. "Easy, princess. We can go into the store after our snack." Isabel adjusted her daughter's bangs, feeling the silky texture of the strands between her fingers. They continued walking down the main corridor, Lily absorbing every detail of the new environment. The background music echoed softly, mixing with the conversations of other visitors and the distant noise of the food court. Isabel stopped in front of a children's clothing store, admiring a little yellow dress in the window. Lily was growing so fast that she constantly needed new clothes. She mentally calculated the budget. The business was doing well, and she could afford to spoil her daughter once in a while. "How about this little dress, my love?" Isabel pointed to the item in the window. Lily followed her mother's finger, but her gaze was distracted with something more interesting. A group of children running near the ornamental fountain that was in the center of the mall. She began to squirm in the stroller, wanting to get down to explore. Isabel looked around, assessing if it was safe to let Lily walk a little. The area was busy, but there was enough space for a child to play under supervision. She took her daughter out of the stroller, holding her little hand firmly. "You can walk, but you have to stay close to Mommy, okay?" Lily nodded vigorously, already pulling Isabel toward the fountain. Her determined little steps echoed on the marble floor, and Isabel had to quicken her own pace to keep up with her daughter's enthusiasm. The fountain was a work of art in itself. Water jets danced in synchronized patterns, creating a mesmerizing spectacle. Lily stopped abruptly, her mouth agape at the aquatic display. A few drops lightly splashed, refreshing the air around them. "Water dance!" Lily exclaimed, trying to touch the jets that were out of her reach. Isabel laughed, gently pulling her daughter to a safe distance. "It really does dance, doesn't it? It's beautiful." It was at that moment that she felt it. A familiar presence, an energy that made all the hairs on her arms stand on end. Her stomach involuntarily clenched, and her heart began to beat faster, as if her body recognized something her mind had not yet processed. Isabel slowly lifted her eyes, scanning the crowd around the fountain, and then she saw him. David Mendoza was standing about 20 yards away, near the entrance to the most expensive jewelry store in the mall. His impeccably tailored dark gray suit molded his tall, elegant silhouette, and his dark hair was perfectly styled, as always. But it was the expression on his face that chilled Isabel's blood. He was watching her, and his gaze was fixed on Lily. The world seemed to slow down. The noise of the fountain, the conversations around them, the background music, everything became a distant murmur. Isabel could only hear her own accelerated breathing and the sound of blood pulsing in her ears. David took a step forward, then stopped. Even at a distance, she could see that he was struggling with some intense emotion. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides, and his jaw was tight in a way she knew well. It was how he looked when he was trying to maintain control. Lily, oblivious to the attention, continued playing near the fountain. She squatted down to touch the water that had pooled at the edge, wetting her fingertips and giggling at the cold sensation. "Cold!" Lily showed her wet fingers to Isabel, waiting for a reaction. "Yes, my love, the water is very cool," Isabel replied mechanically, without taking her eyes off David. He had approached a few more steps. Now he was close enough that she could see the details of his expression. His pale face, his wide eyes, the visible rise and fall of his chest from his breathing. He looked like a man who had seen a ghost. Instinctively, Isabel picked Lily up, a protective movement that made the girl protest slightly. "Mommy, I want to play." "Soon, princess. We're just— Isabel didn't finish the sentence. David was walking directly toward them now, and she realized there was no escape. His cologne reached her before he even spoke. That woody fragrance she used to adore now made her stomach churn. David stopped about 6 feet away, looking as tense as she felt. "Isabel!" His voice came out hoarse, as if it hadn't been used in a long time. Lily turned her head to look at the man who had spoken to her mother. Her dark eyes studied David's face with the natural curiosity of a child, without fear or recognition. Isabel felt her daughter's body relax against hers. Lily didn't know who he was. To her, he was just another stranger in the crowded mall. "David!" Isabel managed to pronounce his name, even though her throat was as dry as paper. He continued to stare at Lily, and Isabel could practically see the thoughts organizing in his mind. The child was about 2 years old, with brown hair and golden highlights, slightly tanned skin, and most importantly, "and the eyes," David murmured, so low that Isabel almost didn't hear him. Lily had the exact same eyes as him, the same dark chocolate color, the same intensity, even the same slightly almond shape. The resemblance was impossible to deny. "Mommy, who is he?" Lily asked, still watching David with childish interest. The question hit Isabel like a punch to the gut. How could she explain to a 2-year-old that the man in front of her was the father who had rejected her existence before she was even born? He's no one important, my love." The words came out colder than she intended. David flinched as if he had been slapped. He gave another step forward, and Isabel instinctively recoiled. "Isabel, can I talk to you? We have nothing to talk about." She adjusted Lily on her hip, preparing to leave. "Please!" The word came out as a desperate plea. "Just 5 minutes." Lily began to squirm in Isabel's arms, wanting to get down to continue playing. "Mommy, water!" Isabel looked around, realizing that some people had started to notice the tension between them. The last place she wanted to make a scene was in the middle of a crowded mall. "Lily wants to play in the water," Isabel said coldly, "and we have other commitments." She started to walk away, but David followed her. "Isabel, wait. Please. Just tell me. Is she—" David began, but Isabel stopped abruptly and turned to face him. The anger that had been carefully controlled for 2 years began to bubble to the surface. "She is what, David?" Her voice was low, but laced with venom. "The mistake you asked me to handle? The complication that could ruin your precious business?" Lily felt the tension in her mother's body and began to get agitated. "Mommy?" Isabel took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down for her daughter's sake. She couldn't let Lily see her mother lose control. "It's okay, princess." Isabel kissed her daughter's forehead, inhaling the sweet smell of baby shampoo. "We're going home now." She turned to leave, but David's voice stopped her again. "Isabel, I know I made a terrible mistake, but please give me a chance to explain." This time, Isabel turned slowly, her eyes burning with contained tears. When she spoke, her voice was laden with 2 years of accumulated pain. "Explain? You want to explain how you abandoned me when I needed you most? How you treated me like a problem to be solved? How you chose money over your own daughter?" The word daughter echoed between them like thunder. David went even paler, if that was possible. Lily looked between the 2 adults, her dark eyes taking in the tension, even without understanding what was happening. She snuggled closer to Isabel, seeking comfort in the familiar warmth of her mother's body. "In that moment," David murmured, more to himself than to Isabel, "I realized that 2 years didn't erase anything. They just condemned me." His words came to Isabel as a whispered confession. She could see the genuine pain in his eyes, the regret that seemed to be consuming him from within. But 2 years of raising Lily alone had hardened her heart against any sympathy for him. "You condemned yourself, David." Isabel adjusted Lily on her hip, feeling the comforting weight of her daughter against her body. "And now you'll have to live with it." She began to walk away definitively, but David shouted after her, "Isabel, I won't give up. I need to know the truth." Isabel stopped without turning, her body trembling with contained anger. "The truth?" She looked over her shoulder, her eyes shining dangerously. "The truth is that you lost the right to ask questions the day you asked me to get rid of your daughter." And with that, she walked away, leaving David standing alone near the fountain, with the echo of her words reverberating in the air between them. As she walked quickly toward the mall exit, Isabel felt her legs shaking. Lily had become quiet, as if she sensed that something important had happened. "Mommy sad?" Lily touched Isabel's face with her small hand. Isabel stopped and looked into her daughter's eyes, those eyes that were a perfect replica of David's. "No, my love, Mommy is fine." She forced a smile. "How about we go home and make cookies?" Lily clapped her hands, the distraction working perfectly. "Cookies!" But as she left the mall, Isabel knew her life had changed irrevocably in those few minutes. David had found them, and from the determination she saw in his eyes, she knew he wouldn't simply disappear again. The question that now tormented her was what else he would be capable of doing to get the answers he was looking for. The persistent sound of the doorbell echoed through the apartment like a hammer hitting glass. Isabel looked through the peephole, her stomach clenching as she saw David standing in the hallway. He looked different. His hair was slightly disheveled, his suit was wrinkled, and his eyes had dark circles that betrayed sleepless nights. "Isabel, I know you're in there. Please, open the door." His voice came muffled through the wood, but it carried an urgency she had never heard before. Lily was playing in the living room with her building blocks, oblivious to the tension in the air. She had stacked the colorful pieces into a crooked tower and was now trying to balance another one on top, her tongue slightly sticking out in concentration. Isabel took a deep breath, the aroma of breakfast still lingering in the kitchen. She had passed the last 3 days since the mall encounter trying to maintain a normal routine, but David had been constantly on her mind, like an irritating song she couldn't get out of her head. "Go away, David." Her voice came out weaker than she intended. "I won't. I can stay here all night if I have to." The determination in his voice made Isabel sigh heavily. Lily looked toward the door, curious about the voices. "Mommy, who is he?" "No one important, my love. Keep playing." Isabel leaned her forehead against the cold door, feeling the weight of the situation. She knew David wouldn't give up easily. It was a trait she had once admired in him, but that had now become a nightmare. "Isabel, please, I just want to talk for 5 minutes." His voice was closer now, as if he were leaning against the other side of the door. "You had your chance to talk 2 years ago," Isabel murmured, just loud enough for him to hear. "I know, and it was the biggest mistake of my life." His words did something strange to Isabel's chest, a mix of anger and an old pain she thought she had overcome. She looked at Lily, who had managed to make a tower of 5 blocks and was now clapping, proud. "Look, Mommy, big!" "Very good, Princess." Isabel forced a smile, but her eyes remained fixed on the door. The silence stretched for a few minutes. Isabel thought that maybe David had given up, but then she heard a sound that chilled her. He had sat down on the floor in the hallway. She could hear the fabric of his suit rustling against the wall. "David, you can't stay there." "Yes, I can. It's a public hallway." His stubbornness made Isabel roll her eyes. It was exactly the kind of attitude that had made him a successful businessman, but it also made him lose his family. Lily approached the door, dragging her teddy bear. "Mommy, why is man sad?" Isabel looked at her daughter, confused. "How do you know he's sad?" Sad voice. Lily leaned her ear against the door, trying to hear better. It was impressive how children picked up on emotions that adults tried to hide. Isabel knelt beside her daughter, inhaling the sweet scent of her freshly washed hair. "Sometimes adults get sad, my love. Mommy sad too?" The innocent question hit Isabel like an arrow. She wasn't exactly sad, but there had been something gnawing at her since the mall encounter. A feeling that a chapter she thought was closed had been forcibly reopened. "Mommy is fine." Isabel kissed her daughter's forehead. "How about we watch a cartoon?" She turned on the television, putting on Lily's favorite children's channel. The girl settled on the sofa with her teddy bear, mesmerized by the colorful characters on the screen. Isabel went back to the door, whispering, "David, you're scaring my daughter." "Our daughter." The correction came immediately. Firm. "No." The word came out like a shot. "You gave up that right." "Isabel, I was scared. Scared of not being a good father, of ruining everything, of not being able to balance the company and the family. And then you decided it was better not to even try." Isabel could hear his heavy breathing through the door. The sound was almost hypnotic, reminding her of nights they had slept intertwined, when the world seemed perfect and full of possibilities. "Every day for the last 2 years, I have regretted that decision." David's voice was laden with a pain that seemed physical. "Every day, I imagined what she would be like, what you would be like as a mother, if she would have my eyes, or yours." "She has your eyes." The words came out before Isabel could stop them. The silence that followed was deafening. Isabel could practically feel his shock reverberating through the door. "Isabel, let me see her, please." "For what? So you can decide again that she's a mistake?" "No, never again." His voice rose in a desperate tone. "Please, Isabel. She's my daughter, too." "Your daughter?" Isabel felt the anger bubbling up again. "You want to be a father now? After I spent sleepless nights when she was sick, after I worked overtime to give her everything she needed, after I explained to a 2-year-old why she doesn't have a daddy." Lily looked toward the door, sensing that her mother's voice had become louder. "Mommy?" Isabel took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. She couldn't lose control in front of her daughter. "It's okay, my love. Keep watching." She went back to the door, whispering, "David, please, just go." "I can't. Not after seeing her." "Isabel, she's perfect. She's exactly as I imagined she would be." His words touched a wound that Isabel tried to keep closed. During her pregnancy and Lily's first months, she had fantasized about this moment. David seeing his daughter for the first time, falling in love instantly, realizing the mistake he had made. But now that it was happening, it only brought pain. "It's too late, David." "It's not. It's never too late to do the right thing. The right thing would have been to stay with me when we found out I was pregnant." Isabel leaned her head against the door again, closing her eyes. She could feel his presence on the other side, like a magnetic field, pulling her in. "Isabel, I know I don't deserve a second chance, but she deserves to know her father. She deserves a dad who loves her unconditionally, not someone who sees her as an inconvenience." "I don't see her that way." David's voice was filled with desperation. "When I saw her at the mall, it was like my whole world shifted. She's beautiful, Isabel. She's perfect." Lily got up from the sofa, walking to the door with small, determined steps. "Mommy, wanna see man?" "No, Lily, go back to the sofa." But the girl was already touching the doorknob, curious about the voice on the other side. "Sad man like mommy when it rains." Lily's innocent observation made Isabel's heart ache. The girl had noticed that sometimes, when it rained, Isabel became melancholy, lost in memories. She tried to forget. "Lily, come here." But at that moment, something unexpected happened. Lily, with the natural curiosity of a 2-year-old, reached for the doorknob. Her small hands managed to turn it, and the door opened a few inches. "Lily! No!" Isabel tried to close the door, but it was too late. David was kneeling in the hallway, his eyes at the same level as the girl's. When Lily appeared in the crack of the door, he froze completely. Lily looked at him with curiosity, without fear. "Hello? Hello, princess." David's voice came out as a harsh whisper, filled with emotion. Isabel pulled Lily back, but the girl resisted, fascinated by the kneeling man. "Why you sad?" Lily asked, tilting her head. David swallowed hard, his eyes glistening. "Why?" "Because I lost something very important." "What you lose?" Isabel felt tears burning her eyes. Lily's innocence was exposing all her most guarded feelings. "I lost you, princess, and your mommy." Lily frowned, processing the information with a child's seriousness, trying to understand the adult world. And then, to Isabel's complete shock, Lily looked at David and said the word that would change everything. "Daddy?" The world stopped. David paled so much that Isabel thought he was going to faint. His hands visibly trembled, and he seemed to forget how to breathe. "Lily!" Isabel whispered. Horrified, but Lily continued to look at David with those dark eyes identical to his, waiting for a response. David looked at Isabel, then at Lily, and finally managed to speak, his voice broken. "Yes, princess, I'm your daddy." In her innocent voice, Isabel found the judgment David deserved, and in his expression, a mixture of wonder, regret, and instant love. She saw a man completely different from the one who had rejected her 2 years ago. The question that now hung in the air, unspoken but present in all their eyes, was devastating in its simplicity. Was it possible to rebuild a family from the wreckage of so much suffering? The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the smell of fresh paint from the drawings Lily had made that morning. Isabel watched from the kitchen window as David tried to win their daughter's attention on the small playground in the building's courtyard. 3 weeks had passed since that devastating encounter at the apartment door, and Isabel's life had become an emotional minefield. Lily ran between the toys, her curls bouncing with every step, while David followed her with a watchful, protective gaze. He had traded his impeccable suits for more casual clothes, dark jeans and a blue polo shirt, in an obvious attempt to seem more approachable to his daughter. But Isabel could see the tension in his shoulders, the careful way he moved, as if he feared that any sudden gesture could break the fragile bond he was trying to build. "Look, Daddy, a slide!" Lily shouted from the top of the toy, her little arms stretched out toward David. The word "daddy" still made Isabel's stomach clench. Lily had accepted David's presence with a child's disconcerting naturalness, but for Isabel, every interaction between them was like watching a play where she knew the script by heart and knew the ending wasn't a happy one. David approached the slide, his arms outstretched to catch Lily. "Careful, princess. Daddy's here." Isabel closed her eyes, letting the coffee grow cold in her hands. That voice, once so familiar and so loved, now carried a tenderness she had never heard. It was ironic that David had discovered his capacity for love precisely in the child he had once rejected. The phone rang, interrupting her bitter thoughts. It was Clara. "Izzy, I have to tell you something." Her partner's voice sounded tense. "I received a strange offer today. An investor wants to buy our company. They offered 3 times its market value." Isabel frowned. "Who's the investor?" "A holding company I've never heard of. But when I looked them up..." "Izzy, all the companies in their portfolio have a connection to David Mendoza." Coffee spilled as the cup trembled in Isabel's hands. She quickly wiped it with a cloth, the fabric absorbing the dark liquid as her mind processed the information. "He's trying to buy me." The realization came out as a venomous whisper. "It looks like it. What do you want me to do?" Isabel looked out of the window again. David had Lily on his shoulders and was walking around the playground, the girl giggling and pulling his hair. The scene was so perfect, so cinematic, that it made her heart break a little more. "Refuse, immediately." "Are you sure? It's a lot of money, Izzy." "I'm sure." Isabel hung up, her hands shaking with anger. 20 minutes later, David and Lily came up to the apartment. The girl was excited, talking a mile a minute about every toy she had tested, while David listened with genuine attention. "Mommy, Daddy taught me how to make a sandcastle." Lily ran to Isabel, her eyes shining with excitement. "That's so great, my love." Isabel forced a smile, but her eyes met David's with a glacial hardness. David immediately noticed the change in the atmosphere. "Lily, how about you watch a cartoon while I talk to Mommy? Can it be Frozen?" Lily was already running to the sofa, eager for her favorite animated movie. "Of course, Princess." David turned on the television, settled Lily comfortably with her stuffed animals, and then followed Isabel to the kitchen. She was turned away from him, preparing her daughter's snack with abrupt, controlled movements. "Isabel, is something wrong?" She turned slowly, the bread knife still in her hand. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" David frowned, genuinely confused. "Find out what?" "The offer to buy my company." Every word came out sharp. David's expression changed instantly. Confusion gave way to embarrassment, then to defensiveness. "Isabel, I can explain." "Explain?" She laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Explain how you're trying to buy me, how you think you can solve everything with money. It's not that." David approached, but Isabel backed away, keeping her distance. "I just wanted to help. I saw how hard you work. I wanted you to have more freedom to be with Lily." "Liar." The word cut the air like a blade. "You want to control me. You want me to depend on you so you can manipulate our situation." "Isabel, you're being unfair. My intention was genuine." "Your intention?" Isabel placed the knife on the counter with a thud, the metallic sound echoing through the kitchen. "Your intention is the same as always, David. To solve problems with money. To buy me like you'd buy any other obstacle in your life." David ran his hands through his hair, a gesture Isabel recognized. He did that when he was frustrated. "You're not an obstacle. You're the most important thing in my life now." "Now." Isabel repeated the word with bitterness. "How convenient is that revelation, isn't it? After you saw that Lily exists, that she's real, that she's perfect." "Isabel, please." "No." She raised her hand, interrupting him. "You don't understand, David. You don't understand anything. I built this life alone. Every brick, every decision, every tear. And now you show up wanting to buy my work as if it were some trinket in a store?" Lily appeared at the kitchen entrance, holding her teddy bear. "Mommy? Why you yelling?" Isabel knelt immediately, softening her voice. "Sorry, my love. Mommy wasn't yelling. I was just talking." "Talking loudly," Lily corrected with the ruthless logic of a child. David approached, kneeling beside Isabel. "Lily, sometimes adults talk loudly when they're trying to solve important things. It's not because they're fighting." Lily looked between the two, her dark eyes processing the information. "You sad?" "No, Princess." David reached out, lightly touching his daughter's hair. "Daddy just wants Mommy to know he loves her very much." The words hit Isabel like a punch. She stood up quickly, moving away from both of them. "Lily, go finish watching your cartoon. The snack will be ready soon." The girl hesitated, clearly sensing the tension, but finally obeyed, going back to the living room. Isabel waited until she was sure Lily couldn't hear them, before turning to David. "How dare you?" "Dare to what?" "Say you love me in front of her. Use our daughter to manipulate me." David stood up slowly, the pain evident in his eyes. "It's not manipulation, Isabel. It's the truth." "The truth?" Isabel laughed again, the sound harsh and wounded. "You want to know what the truth is, David? The truth is that you loved me when it was convenient, when I didn't threaten your plans, when I was just the pretty girlfriend who showed up at your business dinners. That's not true. The moment I became real, the moment our relationship produced real consequences, you discarded me like trash." Tears finally began to fall, burning Isabel's cheeks. "And now, 2 years later, you decide you love me? That you want to be a father? So convenient, David." David took a step toward her, his hands outstretched. "Isabel, I was a coward, an idiot, but I've changed." "Changed?" Isabel wiped her tears away with a violent motion. "The man who destroyed me 2 years ago is the exact same one who just tried to buy my company behind my back. You haven't changed at all, David. You still think you can solve everything with power and money. I just wanted to— You wanted to control me, Isabel exploded. You wanted me to be dependent on you so you could dictate the terms of our relationship, so you could decide when and how to see Lily. David was silent for a long moment, his face pale. Finally, he said, "You're right." Isabel blinked, surprised by the admission. "You're right," David repeated, his voice low and full of regret. "I tried to control the situation. I tried to use money to fix something that money can't fix. It was exactly what I did 2 years ago, and it was wrong then, just as it's wrong now." Isabel crossed her arms, still defensive. "And what are you going to do about it? Cancel the offer immediately." David took his phone from his pocket. "I'm calling my lawyer right now." He dialed a number, and Isabel could hear his firm voice, giving instructions to cancel any attempt to acquire her company. When he hung up, he looked at her with a vulnerability Isabel wasn't prepared to see. "Isabel, I know I screwed everything up. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I don't deserve a second chance. But Lily," his voice broke, "Lily deserves to have a father who fights for her. A father who learns to be better." Isabel watched David for a long moment. She could see the internal struggle in his eyes, the war between the man he had always been and the man he was trying to become. "The man who destroyed me," she said. Finally, her voice low and tired, "Now teaches our daughter how to smile." David closed his eyes, as if her words were an absolution he hadn't expected to receive. "I don't know if I can forgive you, David," Isabel continued. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust you again. But Lily needs a dad. And for some reason I can't understand, she's chosen you." David opened his eyes, and Isabel saw tears forming there. "Don't mess this up," her voice was a threatening whisper. "If you hurt our daughter, if you disappear from her life like you disappeared from mine, I will make you regret it for the rest of your life." "Never," David said with conviction. "I will never abandon Lily, or you, no matter how long it takes. I will prove I've changed." Isabel nodded slowly, exhausted by the conversation. "We'll see, David, we'll see." The expensive scent of his mother's perfume filled the air-conditioned restaurant, mixing with the smell of flowers from the imported arrangements on the marble tables. Isabel nervously adjusted her navy blue dress, feeling the fine fabric against her skin as she watched the elegant woman in front of her. His mother's gray hair was impeccably styled, and her blue eyes, so different from David's, studied Isabel with the coldness of a predator evaluating its prey. "So you're the woman who got my son pregnant?" His mother's voice cut through the silence like a sharp blade, each word pronounced with surgical precision. Isabel took a deep breath, inhaling the lavender scent from the diffuser that tried to soothe the tension in the restaurant's private room. "I'm Isabel, and you must be Mrs. Mendoza. Mrs. Mendoza to you." The correction came instantly, accompanied by a frosty smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I imagine you know why I asked for this meeting." Isabel crossed her legs under the table, the leather of the chair squeaking lightly with the movement. "Actually, I don't. David didn't mention you wanted to meet me." His mother laughed, a crystalline, empty sound, like the clinking of broken glasses. "My son doesn't know we're here. David has always been naive when it comes to women like you." "Women like me?" Isabel felt her blood warm up, but she kept her voice controlled. "Opportunists." His mother savored the word as if it were an expensive wine. "Women who intentionally get pregnant by rich men to secure a comfortable life." The waiter approached discreetly, placing a glass of champagne in front of his mother and a natural orange juice in front of Isabel. The sound of the bubbles bursting in the champagne was almost hypnotic in the tense silence that settled between them. "You're mistaken." Isabel lightly touched the edge of the cold glass, feeling the condensation moisten her fingers. "I don't want anything from David. I never did." "Of course you don't." His mother took a delicate sip of champagne, That's why you allowed him to get close to the child, out of the goodness of your heart. Isabel felt anger bubbling up, but she forced herself to maintain composure. I allowed it because Lily has the right to know her father, no matter how much I disagree with his choices. Lily. His mother repeated the name with disdain, a common name for a child with Mendoza blood. It's a beautiful name. It means wisdom. Wisdom. His mother laughed again. How ironic, considering the circumstances of her conception. Isabel clenched her fists under the table, her nails digging into her palms. The smell of food from other tables, truffles, grilled salmon, refined sauces, now made her feel nauseous. Mrs. Mendoza, if you have something to say, just say it. I don't have time for games. His mother placed her glass on the table with a soft clink, but the sound echoed like a hammer. Very well, I'll be direct. How much do you want to disappear from my son's life? Isabel blinked, sure she had heard wrong. Excuse me? 5 million? 10? Everyone has a price, darling. What's yours? The world seemed to tilt sideways. Isabel felt the blood drain from her face, leaving her dizzy. The noise of the restaurant, low conversations, silverware clinking against plates, the background music. Everything became a distant hum. You're offering me money to abandon my daughter? Don't be dramatic. His mother waved her hand, her diamond ring sparkling under the chandelier light. You can take the child. I just want you both to disappear from David's life. Isabel stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the marble floor with a harsh sound. You're crazy. Sit down. His mother's voice cut through the air like a whip. I'm not finished yet. I am. Isabel grabbed her purse, but his mother continued speaking. David is making a mistake. This obsession with the child is affecting his business. Yesterday, he canceled an important meeting because she was sick. The day before, he left in the middle of a video conference because you called. Isabel stopped, turning slowly. How do you know that? I know everything that happens in my son's life. His mother smiled coldly. And I know you're being selfish. David has responsibilities. Hundreds of employees depend on him. The family company is at stake. The family company has always been more important than family itself, hasn't it? Isabel returned to the table, but didn't sit down. Is that how you raised David? I protected him from a mistake that could destroy everything we built. His mother leaned forward, her blue eyes shining with a dangerous, calculating intensity. And I'm going to protect him from you too. David is an adult. He can make his own decisions. David is a man. And men make stupid choices when it comes to pretty women and cute children. His mother took another sip of champagne, as if she were discussing the weather. But I think with my head, not with other parts of the body. Isabel felt nauseous. You're disgusting. I'm practical. His mother opened her Italian leather purse and took out an envelope. 15 million. In cash. Tax-free. All you have to do is sign this document, renouncing all rights over David, and agreeing not to look for him again. Isabel looked at the envelope as if it were a venomous snake. And Lily? David can visit the child, sporadically, at times that don't interfere with his professional commitments. You want to turn my daughter into an appointment on David's schedule. I want to protect the future of the Mendoza company, and consequently, the future of the child herself. If David ruins the business because of this phase, Lily will have nothing. Isabel sat down again, but only to be at the same level as his mother. Do you want to know what I think? I'm listening. I think you're scared. Isabel leaned forward, her voice low and sharp. Scared that David has finally found something more important than Mommy's approval. His mother's face tightened slightly, the first crack in her perfect facade. David has changed since he met Lily, Isabel continued, gaining confidence. He's learning to be human, and that scares you, doesn't it? You know nothing about my son. I know he's being a father for the first time in his life, and that's transforming him into the man he always should have been. His mother hit her hand on the table, making the glasses clink. Enough! Are you going to accept my offer, or will I have to take more drastic measures? Drastic measures? Isabel felt a chill down her spine. I can make your life very difficult, darling. Your little marketing company would be a shame if it lost all its clients at once, or if the tax authorities decided to do a thorough audit. Isabel stood up again, this time with iron determination. You just made a mistake. What mistake? You showed who you really are, and now I'm going to tell David exactly what kind of mother he has. His mother laughed, but there was less confidence in the sound. David would never believe I'd do something like that. I'm his mother. Exactly. The mother who taught him that love is conditional, that family is negotiable, that money solves everything. Isabel took the envelope and tore it in half, the pieces falling like confetti onto the elegant table. But you know what else, Mrs. Mendoza? David isn't that man anymore. You're making a terrible mistake. The only mistake I made was underestimating how much you're willing to do to keep control over your son. Isabel turned to leave, but stopped at the door. But David will know everything, and when he does, he'll have to choose between the mother who has always controlled him and the daughter who is teaching him how to love. Isabel left the restaurant with her heart pounding, the fresh air of the street contrasting with the suffocating atmosphere of the place she had just left. Her hands were shaking as she dialed David's number. Isabel, is something wrong? David, we need to talk. Now? Yes. Where are you? Leaving Fasano's. Your mother called me for lunch. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. David? I'm coming to get you. His voice was tense, controlled. Don't go anywhere. As she waited, Isabel watched the street traffic. People walking quickly, cars passing, life happening normally. But for her, everything had changed in the last 40 minutes. The war for David's soul had just begun, and his mother had just declared that she didn't intend to lose without a fight. The question that now hammered in Isabel's mind was terrifying. Would David be strong enough to face his own mother? Or was the obedient son he had always been still stronger than the father he was learning to be? 20 minutes later, when David's car pulled up in front of the restaurant, and she saw the determination in his eyes, Isabel knew that the answer would define not only their future, but Lily's as well. Do you believe David will choose his new family over his mother's approval? Share your thoughts in the comments. David's office smelled of familiar leather and fine wood, but today there was an electric tension in the air that made every piece of furniture seem like a silent witness to a battle about to erupt. His mother was sitting in the burgundy velvet armchair, her gloved hands holding a porcelain cup with the icy elegance that had always characterized her. David paced back and forth behind the mahogany desk, his steps echoing on the marble floor like the beats of a war drum. You offered Isabel money to disappear from my life. David's voice was too controlled, each word pronounced with surgical precision. His mother took a delicate sip of her tea, the aromatic steam rising in lazy spirals. I offered a practical solution to a problem that's destroying everything we've built. Lily is not a problem. David hit his hand on the desk, making the crystal picture frames tremble. She's my daughter. She is a complication. His mother placed her cup on the saucer with a soft touch, but the sound echoed like a gunshot in the tense silence. David, you've canceled 6 important meetings this month. The Germans are questioning your dedication to the business. David stopped pacing, turning to face his mother. His gray suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened. Signs of a man who had spent hours trying to process his mother's betrayal. So what? There are more important things than business, Mom. His mother laughed, a crystalline sound that cut the air like broken glass. More important? David, you have responsibilities. 1,200 employees depend on you, shareholders who have entrusted millions to your decisions. And my daughter also depends on me. David approached the armchair, looking at the woman who had raised him with a mixture of love and hurt. For the first time in my life, someone needs me for who I am, not for what I own. That's cheap romanticism. His mother stood up with a feline elegance, smoothing the skirt of her Chanel suit. You're in love with the idea of being a father, not the reality. Children cry, David. They get sick. They demand time, attention, sacrifices. I know that. David crossed his arms, his muscles tense under the fabric of his shirt. And I'm willing to make all the necessary sacrifices. His mother walked to the panoramic window, watching the city stretch out below. The evening lights were beginning to flicker, creating a golden mosaic against the orange sky. As your mother, it's my duty to protect you from impulsive decisions. Her voice echoed against the glass. This woman manipulated you, David. She used the child to awaken your paternal instincts. Isabel is not manipulative. David approached the window, standing next to his mother. She rejected me when I tried to get close. She rejected my money, my help. Everything. A smart strategy. His mother turned to her son, her blue eyes shining with a calculated coldness. Playing hard to get always works with men like you. David felt something break inside his chest. An invisible connection that had bound him to his mother's approval for 35 years. Men like me? Men who confuse responsibility with sentimentality. His mother touched her son's arm with false affection. David, you can support the child without getting emotionally involved. Pay a generous allowance. Visit sporadically. Stop! The word came out as a low roar. Stop talking about my daughter as if she were a business commitment. His mother recoiled a step, surprised by the intensity of his reaction. David, no! Mom, now you're going to listen to me. David turned completely to face her, his chest rising and falling with rapid breaths. Lily is 2 years old and already says my name. When she sees me, her eyes light up. She trusts me completely without questioning whether I deserve it or not. The words came out laden with an emotion his mother had never seen in her son. David continued, his voice growing firmer. When Lily is sick, nothing else matters. When she needs me, I drop everything to be with her. And do you know why? Because for the first time in my life, I understand what it means to love someone more than myself. His mother paled slightly, but maintained her upright posture. This sentimentality will pass, David. It's a phase. It's not a phase, David exploded, years of emotional repression finally finding an outlet. It's who I always should have been. A man capable of putting family before profits. Family. His mother spat the word as if it were poisonous. They're not our family, David. They're strangers who appeared in your life 2 months ago. Lily carries my blood. Isabel is my daughter's mother. They are my family, yes. David walked to the desk, picking up a framed photo where he appeared next to Lily on the playground. And I'm going to protect them. His mother looked at the photo with poorly disguised disgust. Protect them from what? From people like you. The words came out low, but filled with a determination that made his mother take another step back. From people who think love is weakness, that family is negotiable. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of the air conditioning and the distant traffic below. His mother studied her son's face, looking for signs of the obedient boy she had always controlled. David, you're throwing away everything we've built together because of a fantasy. Her voice trembled imperceptibly. The company, the respect of your partners, your social position. They can call me crazy. David walked to the office door, opening it in a clear gesture of dismissal. But this is my family. His mother remained motionless for a moment, processing the defeat. Then, with the wounded dignity of a deposed queen, she walked toward the door. You will regret this decision, David. The only thing I regret is taking so long to make it. His mother stopped in the doorway without turning around. When this romantic fantasy is over, when you realize you gave up everything for nothing, don't come asking me for help. I won't need to. David watched his mother's rigid silhouette. Because I've finally found something worth more than your approval. His mother left without looking back, her heels echoing down the corridor until they disappeared into the elevator. David closed the door and leaned against it, closing his eyes and taking a deep breath. His phone rang. Isabel. David, how did it go? It was liberating. He smiled for the first time in hours. My mother just found out she doesn't control me anymore. And now? David looked out the window, watching the city lights. Somewhere, Lily was playing, laughing, being the wonderful child who had completely changed his life. Now I'm going home, to a real home. David, Isabel, I know you still don't completely trust me. I know it will take time to rebuild everything I destroyed, but I just broke away from everything that was holding me to the past. Isabel was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft, almost a whisper. Lily asked if you're coming to dinner with us tonight. David felt his chest tighten with emotion. Tell her Daddy's coming home. As he tidied the desk and shut down his computer, David knew he had lost a lot in the last few minutes. His mother's approval, possibly some business deals, maybe even a part of the company. But as he drove toward the apartment where Isabel and Lily were waiting, David knew he had gained something infinitely more valuable. The chance to be the man his daughter deserved as a father. I lost millions, he thought as he stopped at a traffic light, but I got my world back. The aroma of fresh roses, mixed with the sweet smell of the chocolate cake Lily had insisted on helping to decorate. Isabel watched from the apartment window as the morning moved slowly by. Her fingers played nervously with the hem of the cream-colored dress she had chosen for the most important day of their lives. 3 months had passed since David's confrontation with his mother. And slowly, like flowers blooming after a harsh winter, they had rebuilt something they never knew could exist. A real family. Mommy, is Daddy coming soon? Lily ran to Isabel, her pink dress with satin bows swaying with every step. Her curls were held back by a small tiara of fake pearls, and her dark eyes shone with childish anticipation. Almost, my love. Isabel knelt down, adjusting her daughter's dress. Daddy just went to pick up Grandma Clara. Lily frowned in concentration. Grandma Clara is going to cry again. Isabel laughed, remembering her partner's reaction when she heard about the marriage proposal. Clara had cried so much she had to redo her makeup 3 times. Maybe a little bit, but they're happy tears, Princess. The doorbell rang, and Lily shot toward the door like a pink rocket. Daddy! Isabel opened the door, and her heart still did a little flip at the sight of David. He was wearing a light gray suit that highlighted his dark eyes, and was carrying a bouquet of daisies, Isabel's favorite flowers. Not the expensive roses he used to buy in the past. Princess! David knelt down to hug Lily, who threw herself into his arms with total enthusiasm. You look beautiful! You too, Daddy. Lily touched his tie with curiosity. Is it a special day? The most special day of all. David looked over his daughter's head, meeting Isabel's eyes. Good morning, future wife. Isabel felt her cheeks flush. Even after 3 months, she was still surprised by the genuine tenderness in his voice when he called her that. Clara appeared behind David, her eyes already watery. Izzy, you're radiant. Thanks for agreeing to have me as your witness. Isabel hugged her friend, breathing in the floral perfume Clara always wore. As if I would miss this, Clara discreetly wiped the corner of her eyes. After everything you've been through, David picked Lily up, watching the 2 women. Are you ready? I think so. Isabel grabbed her small handbag, checking if she had everything. Documents, Lily's ring, which she had insisted on carrying, a handkerchief for the inevitable tears. They went down to David's car together. Lily chattered excitedly about how she had helped choose the flowers, while David carefully settled her in the car seat. Isabel watched the scene, the care with which he adjusted the seatbelts, his infinite patience with his daughter's questions, and she felt a wave of gratitude for having given that man a second chance. The civil registry was a simple building in the city center, without the ostentation David had probably imagined for his wedding years ago. But when they entered the room, decorated with simple flowers and natural light, Isabel knew it was perfect. The judge was a middle-aged man with a kind smile, who knelt down to greet Lily personally. "And you must be Princess Lily. I hear you have a very important job today." Lily nodded seriously. "I'm giving the rings. An enormous responsibility." The judge winked at her. "I'm sure you'll do a great job." They stood in front of the makeshift altar. David held Isabel's hand, their fingers intertwined like two puzzle pieces that had finally found their place. Lily stood between them, holding the small pillow with the rings. "We are gathered here today," the judge began the ceremony, but Isabel could barely concentrate on the words. She was lost in David's eyes, seeing a mixture of love, regret, and hope that made her heart ache. When it was time for the vows, David cleared his throat nervously. "Isabel," he said, his voice trembling slightly. 3 years ago, I was a man who thought he knew what was important in life. I thought success was measured in money, that love was a luxury I couldn't afford to have." Lily looked up, fascinated by the seriousness in her father's voice. "You offered me the greatest gift anyone could give, a family, and I, the coward and idiot that I was, rejected that gift." David swallowed hard, fighting back emotion. "But life gave me a second chance. It gave us a second chance." He looked at Lily, then back at Isabel. "I promise I will never again put anything above our family. I promise to be the husband you deserve and the father our daughter needs. I promise that, Naaman. No matter what happens, you will always come first." Isabel felt tears streaming freely down her face. When it was her turn, her voice was choked with emotion. "David, you hurt me deeply. For a long time, I thought I could never forgive you. But Lily," she looked at her daughter, who was watching everything with wide eyes. "Lily taught me that true love isn't perfect. It's strong." David squeezed her hand tighter. "You proved that people can change, that love can grow from suffering. I promise to give you the chance to be the man you want to be. I promise we will build a family based on true love, not fear." The judge smiled broadly, clearly moved. "Now, the rings." Lily stepped forward solemnly, offering David's ring to Isabel first. "For Daddy!" Isabel slid the golden band onto David's finger, her hands trembling slightly. When it was his turn, David held Isabel's hand with an almost religious reverence. "With this ring," he repeated the judge's words, but his eyes never left Isabel's. "Now I pronounce you husband and wife." The judge smiled widely. "You may kiss the bride." David leaned in, touching Isabel's lips in a soft kiss, full of promises. Lily clapped enthusiastically. "Now we're a real family," she shouted, making everyone laugh. Outside the registry, Clara insisted on taking hundreds of photos. Lily posed with professional seriousness, then ran to play in the small garden while the adults talked. "Izzy, can I talk to you for a minute?" Clara pulled Isabel aside. "Of course. Are you sure? After everything he did?" Isabel watched David playing with Lily, teaching her how to make crowns with the daisies that had fallen on the ground. "Clara, the man who rejected me 3 years ago isn't the same one standing over there. People can change when they find something worth fighting for. And what if he goes back to who he was?" Isabel smiled, watching David place a flower crown on Lily's head, who giggled with delight. "Then Lily and I will be strong enough to handle it. But I believe in him. I believe in us." They went for lunch at a small restaurant Lily had chosen, a simple place that served the best macaroni and cheese in the city, according to her. Throughout the meal, Lily didn't stop talking, telling all the waiters that her parents had gotten married. "Now, Daddy lives with us forever," she announced to a table of elderly people who smiled indulgently. When they got home, Lily was exhausted from all the excitement. David carried her to her room, and Isabel followed, watching him help her change her clothes. "Daddy, you're going to sleep here every night now?" Lily asked, as David combed her hair. "Every night, princess, forever. And when I wake up in the morning, you'll be here? Always." David kissed his daughter's forehead. "Daddy isn't going away anymore." Lily smiled sleepily. "Good. I like it when there are three of us." After Lily fell asleep, Isabel and David sat on the living room sofa, the comfortable silence filled only by the distant sound of traffic. "Thank you," David said suddenly. "For what?" "For giving me a second chance, for believing I could be better." Isabel snuggled against him, breathing in the perfume she now associated with security and love. David, from the cruel request to the miracle of reconciliation, love won. He hugged her tighter, kissing the top of her head. It did. And this time, it's forever. Outside, the rain began to fall softly, creating a background music for the beginning of a new life. A life where love had triumphed over fear, where a family had been born from the ashes of pain. And in the room next door, Lily slept soundly, protected by the love of two parents who had finally learned that some things are worth more than any treasure in the world.